Hi everyone, welcome back to Coffee, Books, and Rain. I'm Rachel. Now, I did miss just a few days here at the beginning of August. I almost said October, August, but I have been a little under the weather. Just trying to recuperate, I suppose I could say. I really wanted to record yesterday and just maybe missed the one day. However, still was not feeling up to snuff. But we have our coffee, we have our books and our reviews, and we have some clouds outside that potentially will bring us a bit of rain. I also have a huge thing of water because I am still trying to hydrate, and just had kind of a busy beginning of August in some pretty good ways, minus getting a bit of a stomach thing, but otherwise, things are going pretty well. And I have still been reading, so I have quite a bit to review and talk to you about over the next couple of episodes. So let's dive into the first one of The Society of Unknowable Objects by Gareth Brown. This gentleman came across my radar, I want to say last year with the Book of Doors, and I was really intrigued by it. There are books and they have like different like abilities to open doorways into various places, and it's just all very cool. And this one, I do not know if any of you have ever watched a TV show. Now, it has since ended, but it gives me this vibe on a little bit of a different level, but kind of like The Librarians, but also kind of like Warehouse 13 a little bit. These objects are not like, I don't know, Joan of Arc's helm or anything like that, which maybe we would have found on The Librarians or Warehouse 13, and those are much more sci-fi, but those are some of my like favorite TV shows. I really love just that premise of weaving in a bit of, I guess you could call it mythological history with intrigue, lore, urban legends, and all of that, or just curiosities of history. And I think there was one episode about Paracelsus that I remember from Warehouse 13 that I thought was really fascinating. But anyway, this is a world of what they call unknowable objects. They are magical items that most people have no idea possess power. Now, in those shows that I referenced, most of those items are kind of assumed to have power because of what they are, whether it be like Alexander the Great's cup or the Shroud of Turin or something like that, the Ark of the Covenant. So items of historical relevance. Now, these items in this particular story are much smaller in their, I guess, in their everyday look, but potentially have power. And we're diving into the summary. That first sentence I said is part of it. The world of unknowable objects, magical items that most people have no idea possess power, has been quiet for decades. But 3 current members of a secret society have remained watchful, meeting every 6 months in the basement of a bookshop in London. They are pledged to protect their archive of magical items hidden away from the outside world, and keep the world safe from them. But when Frank Simpson, the longest-standing member of the Society of Unknowable Objects, hears of a new artifact coming to light in Hong Kong, he sends the Society's newest member, author Magda Sparks, to investigate. Within hours of arriving in Hong Kong, Magda is facing death and danger, confronted by a professional killer who seems to know all about unknowable objects, specifically one that was stolen from him a decade before. Magda is forced to flee, using an artifact that not even the rest of society knows about. Ooh. Returning to London, Magda learns hers is not the only secret being kept from the other 2 members, and that the most pernicious secret is about the nature of the Society's mission. Her discoveries will lead her on a perilous journey across the Atlantic to the deep south of the United States, not in pursuit of an unknowable object, but an unknowable person, the person she first faced in Hong Kong. In doing so, Magda begins to understand that there are even more in the world who are chasing these magical items, and that her own family's legacy is tied up in keeping all these secrets under wraps. Magic has always been too powerful to reveal to the world, but Magda will learn there might be something even more powerful: the truth. It does have a bit of fantasy, mystery, of course, fiction, and a little bit of magical realism. Uh, and I think it's because most of the objects are, I don't want to say like mundane, but they look kind of mundane. And I think the premise of the magical realism is that a more or less mundane object could have possess some sort of ability for one reason or another. So the book starts out as we start kind of in the middle of some activity. A lady is she's got this map per se that I would assume is potentially a kind of unknowable object in itself, but it's more or less like a sheet of paper. It's barely a map, and when she looks at it, it shows her where, like when she's near or standing on top of an unknowable object. Like the X and her kind of tend to move like in conjunction with each other. Like if it's tucked up in some rocks in the desert, then she can follow where X marks the spot, sort of thing. And so that was really cool. However, as she gets closer to this object on her map and she's standing there, the X is almost moving on its own. And so she's looking around, and she ends up being pushed off a cliff and is found a couple days later at the bottom of the cliff. This is Magda's mom. At least, if I read that part right, I feel confident. Now that I say it out loud, I think I'm like 95% confident, but that means I'm pretty confident because I remember going, oh no, that was her mom. And I really like this book. Urban fantasy is one that I really enjoy, and it does have some adventure. It has a little bit of what you could kind of call National Treasure moments, Lara Croft Tomb Raider moments, but we're not really tomb raiding, so to speak. And it seems as though like Magda seems fairly young. I would say like what, mid-30s? I'm trying to remember how long it's been, because I want to say when we kind of meet Magda, she's a writer and she's potentially been writing for a couple of years. So my brain says late 20s, early 30s, but it seems as though the other members of the society are a bit older than her, and she was potentially the younger one. Now, there is a fourth member who, at the time of the book opening, has not been seen for quite a while. She's just not made it to any of the meetings. So when the meeting is called to order, kind of out of cadence for their every 6 months sort of schedule, Magda is very confused because she thinks maybe it's about that other member. Maybe potentially it's about, what's happened to her or helping her out, something like that. However, when she gets there, it is about an object that has potentially been identified in Japan. So at that particular point, there is an investigation to go try to find this object and try to race against the enemies in order to be the first one to it. So same with I don't want to say same with the kind of other book of Doors, but there are I can see a theme for Gareth Brown, and secret societies is definitely one of them, which I'm not adverse to. I absolutely do believe secret societies exist all around the world. There are 100%. Now, what do they do? I have no idea. But I even watched this movie back in like the 90s or early 2000s called The Skulls, where there was like an Ivy League school that had like a secret society. I'm like, that for sure is a real thing. That for sure is a real thing. So I did pick up this book because I did like The Book of Doors by Gareth Brown. I thought it was a very interesting premise, where some books really dive into this action-packed, like Mission Impossible-esque sort of vibe of, very much thriller, suspense, edge of your seat. This is not quite that, but in the best of ways. This type of action adventure is my cup of tea. I don't want to say it's slower, but it's just presented in less of a spy Laura Croft esque, less like those are very much their own genre, and this one is not quite that intense, I guess is the best way to put it. Like with Laura Croft, guns are going to be like popping out everywhere, and people are going to be like spin kick and all this sort of stuff. Lots of martial arts and cool stunts. I don't feel like this is that type of book, but we do have some pretty cool scenes going on with regards to trying to escape in various ways. And I like the pacing. I thought that was well done. I do see, just as I'm scrolling down, just to get to just some of the comments, I do see that someone else also said it reminds them of the TV show The Librarians, which they love, which is urban fantasy with secret societies, magical artifacts, mysteries with humor and suspense. So all of this is definitely encapsulated in this book. Now, it's Nika Ex Libris. That's the person who mentioned that in their review. And they also said urban fantasy, which of course it is, third person, multiple perspectives, which I guess I never really ever mentioned the perspectives the books are written in, because first or third is usually the most common anyway. They put an age of 15 plus, which I do think is probably pretty I don't know. I don't know if it's really necessary. Young adult could definitely read this pretty easily. There are a couple of more tense situations, but I didn't find any what I would call spicy scenes that would for me give it kind of that more R rating, more like 18 and up sort of rating. So yeah, I guess with just the level of kind of like angst and violence towards each other, this book could be intense, but I think in most cases, readers of the 14-15 age range are probably pretty good with just being able to read that. So I was kind of trying to see why I was trying to think of why they might have made it a 15 plus, but I didn't really see. Now, the Society of Unknowable Objects is very interesting also because, again, it's only 3 people. Technically, there should be a 4th, but she hasn't been around for a little while. I don't know who charged them, like, at the beginning. You don't know who's charged them with protecting these objects. You don't know if they've taken it upon themselves or what, but there seems to be kind of like this locked hidden cabinet, and it definitely makes me think of just like, but it's a cabinet. It's not like a warehouse like in some of the shows and such. So most of these objects appear pretty small, it seems, and there hasn't been any new discoveries for several decades. I would say about 20 years or so. And so now they really are like eager to go and find this unknowable object. I was also trying to think, yeah, I think that's why Magda is the one that goes. Magda Sparks. She is like the youngest member and the newest member. So I just think she's probably a little bit more sprightly to be able to get into the action of things. Whereas the other members of the society, the way they're presented, seem as though they are, I don't want to say elderly, but definitely older than Magda, where they may have not have as much spring in their step as she does. I like the way the story builds. I do like the action in it. I do enjoy just reading about these characters. I think Gareth Brown has a really good way about him when it comes to writing, so good on him. I love reading fantasy. I love reading sci-fi. The urban fantasy is perfectly fine for me, and I thought this was really well done. I definitely will be picking up more books by this author in the future, and I'm just trying to see if there was anything else that I wanted to catch before I let you all go, but just kind of glancing over a few to see if there's anything that I kind of think that I've missed that they're mentioning, but I don't see anything. But with all of that being said, I'm going to go ahead and leave you here with this book. I think the book, again, plays out really well and lots of action, and the culmination is very, very well done. So without any spoilers at all, I do want to encourage you to go pick this book up if you like the theme that I've kind of given you. I really don't want to spoil anything because you never know what might lead you to conclusions. Who knows? But I'm so glad to be back and recording. Like I said, I've got a few more episodes I need to do today just to catch up. So you're probably going to see me, if you tune in frequently, in this particular outfit for probably an episode or 2 or 3. And with all of that, I'm going to let you all go. I want to thank you so much for joining me on this journey, and I will see you all on the next page. I hope you have a great one.